Welcome to Batch and Scale, the healthy food financing podcast brought to you by Eats Place. This podcast explores the dollars and cents behind our food. I'm your host, Katie Chang, and in this series, we're diving into the economics of healthy food, looking at its journey from harvest to home and all the points in between. In this third episode, we're focusing on a vital link that connects local farms to our communities, food hubs. These often unsung heroes of the food world play a crucial role in strengthening local food systems, ensuring that fresh, healthy, and sustainably produced food reaches consumers. We'll explore how food hubs are changing the landscape of food distribution, making it easier for small and mid-sized farmers to thrive while providing communities with access to their own local bounty. We'll hear from Alex Moore from DC Central Kitchen with an innovative model that not only distributes food, but also empowers individuals through job training and tackles hunger and food waste. Their story highlights the multifaceted role that food hubs can play in fostering both economic and social well-being. We'll be speaking with Caron Gremont of FRESHFARM about making a real difference for farmers by helping them reach broader markets and streamline their operations. She'll share her insights on the challenges and rewards of connecting rural producers with urban consumers. We'll continue to follow the progress of the rise of Dreaming Out Loud's community grocery store in Anacostia. Their urban farm is a key component of its mission, providing fresh, locally grown produce directly to the community. By cultivating food within the neighborhood, the farm offers a sustainable source of healthy options in a food desert. Join us as we explore the power of food hubs and their potential to transform the way we harness healthy food. Let's dig in. And I will be exploring the power of food hubs with Alex Moore, Chief Development Officer of DC Central Kitchen. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Katie. Thrilled to be with you today.
Can you tell us more about DC Central Kitchen?
Our mission statement, which has never changed in 36 years, is to use food as a tool to strengthen bodies, empower minds, and build communities. And that might sound pretty open-ended, and in some ways it is. And when you think about how we've grown through the years, our first social enterprise was doing catering services and hiring our graduates to do that. We had never imagined doing corner stores until, well, our community imagined us doing corner stores. The idea of using food not as an end unto itself, but as a tool to get at the idea of the empowerment of minds, the building up of communities, that was really formative for us, and it's guided our decision making ever since. DC Central Kitchen got our start here in Washington, D.C. in 1989. And so we were founded not by someone with a PhD in organizational management or a career nonprofit worker, but by a young nightclub manager named Robert Egger. And he had a hopefully pretty relatable experience, Katie, to many of those listening today. He developed this idea after having his first volunteer experience. And those volunteers went out on the streets of Washington, D.C. and served meals to people experiencing homelessness. And that had been a weekly program at that church for years. But Robert was actually kind of challenged and confused by that experience. And so after one night of serving sandwiches and soup and oranges to lines of homeless people lining up in the rain, he went home and wrote a business plan. So that business plan became DC Central Kitchen. And in that plan, he laid out a few basic propositions that turned that traditional soup kitchen model on its head. The idea of using food that was not being fully used in our community, bringing those food ingredients together in a centralized kitchen, bringing people together to provide an economy of scale for preparing nutritious meals for our community. And then instead of having volunteers hand those meals out, providing those meals to agencies all across DC that were doing something besides feeding people. Agencies that were getting at the root cause of hunger by providing housing or education or drug rehabilitation programs. And the final sort of core of this community kitchen model, Katie, was to send with those meals a message that if you were enrolled in one of those housing programs or support programs and you had an interest in getting a career in cooking, well, you could come to where those meals were made and work alongside volunteers in that central kitchen. And in the process of feeding your own community, learn a marketable skill, earn real certifications, and move beyond that state of hunger and poverty by launching a new job. And so DC Central Kitchen, this idea of a community kitchen, is based on this idea that we're never going to feed our way out of hunger, that charity cannot simply be about the redemption of the giver, of those well-intentioned volunteers, but it has to be about the liberation of the receiver. And that if we can keep food from going to waste, we certainly should keep people from being wasted as well.
I love that. Wow, the origin story really speaks to being able to deploy available resources. And it really shows this grassroots action and creativity of a food hub aggregating and distributing local food from farmers and producers and nightclubs and restaurants. How does your food hub work with all of them?
Well, we try to be very intentional about the ways we are different from, again, maybe a more traditional food hub, right? If you're thinking about large warehouses that are aggregating farm products and then working with different sort of wholesale buyers to move those products to different markets, that's not really us, but we are a USDA recognized food hub. That's because we're working with more than 70 local farmers to source products all year long, right? That includes certainly seasonally available products, but also doing contract growing and helping farmers, build hot houses to be able to produce products for us in the winter so that we can serve locally sourced food all year round. But we are by and large our own consumer of those items. So what we're doing is we're taking all those beautiful items and transforming them into healthy meals for schools. We do about 12,000 scratch cooked, locally sourced meals for DC area schools every single day. We deliver healthy meals to homeless shelters, halfway houses, nonprofits all across the city. That's another 5,000 or so meals every day. And then we also deliver fresh, nutritious fruits and vegetables to 57 small corner stores in parts of DC that don't have easy access to supermarkets. And so we're a mission driven wholesaler of fruits and vegetables that then empowers low income shoppers, folks residing in neighborhoods that don't have grocery stores, to be able to make healthy local choices right at their own small corner store. Finally, we offer our own cafe and catering services. So we do corporate catering, where we're including those local ingredients in market-based priced corporate catering services. And we operate 3 welcoming cafes all across the city that double as job training sites and internship sites for our students while creating these really thoughtful, welcoming, healthy retail food environments.
DC Central Kitchen is such an innovative model for a food hub. Like you said, it's not just your regular food hub that takes food from farmers. You're doing so much in addition to preparing the food, but also reaching out to different members of the community. What other unique aspects are there of DC Central Kitchen?
For us, the bottom line of all of this work with bringing healthy, dignified, nutritious food to where it's most needed, it comes back to this idea of jobs. We're never going to feed our way out of hunger, so we have to empower more people to move into a position where they can make their own food choices for themselves and their families, right? And so our culinary job training program is this rigorous 14-week knife skills and life skills program where we engage members of our community who have experienced homelessness, incarceration, addiction, and trauma, as well as opportunity youth, young people under the age of 25 who are disconnected from both work and school, to earn multiple industry recognized credentials and then work with us and our amazing network of hospitality partners to land meaningful employment, right? And embark on those new careers. The coolest thing about that, though, is we are our own best hiring partner. Just like we're our own best sort of food hub customer, we're our own best hiring partner because we now employ 150 of our own graduates who now have full-time living wage benefit providing employment supporting all of those social enterprises that I just mentioned. So it's our graduates working in DC schools. It's our graduates coaching up corner store owners on how to merchandise and present beautiful fresh produce in a store that may not have any other perishable products on hand absent our deliveries. It's our graduates who are teaching culinary lessons to the next generation of graduates. And so, in all these different ways, what we're trying to do is not add something to a community or interject a solution, but create opportunities for community leadership to grow over time and support those leadership journeys of folks who know these challenges better than anybody, and then to offer those really meaningful solutions.
Yeah, your impact is exponential. You're not just distributing food, you're also providing all this job training. Can you go more into how this social mission is boosting the community and how it contributes to food security and food access?
Well, there's a lot of ways to look at that. One thing that we use is our social return on investment. And so we look at the real dollars and cents value of everything that we do. And that's really important, I think, for mission driven actors, whether you're a nonprofit or a social enterprise. We can't just measure our results based on our outputs, right? Number of meals served. Because if we're not going to feed our way out of hunger, that can't be the determining indicator of success. But our social return on investment helps us look at things like how much less likely is someone who completes our training program to go back to prison compared to the national average of somebody who is released from prison. And so if we can reduce, as we do, recidivism probabilities by 90% by serving folks who are served their debt to society and are coming home and hopeful for a different chapter in their life, well, then we can save taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars per year for each of those individuals. And we can help that person who is overcoming that barrier become a taxpayer. That's an incredible flip of our public resources. And so when you add up everything that we do, whether it's reducing recidivism, expanding the tax base, employing people in our community, keeping food out of landfills, it adds up to $130 million a year of measurable economic, social, and environmental benefits, which is so important in terms of framing the really important role of nonprofits and social enterprises in our communities. And it helps us make smart decisions about what to do with our resources. Because it's not just about what feels good or what looks good in a fundraising letter. It has to be about what's generating the most meaningful and enduring change in our community.
That's great. It's not a drain, it's a gain. And it really highlights the economic, environmental, and social benefits of the local food system. With so many amazing, impactful projects, what are the main challenges in running this type of unique food hub, especially because you have such a multifaceted mission, so many projects going on?
How many hours do we have, Katie? When you are trying to disrupt so many fundamental and we believe sort of false and stereotypical assumptions about how things are, how things have to be, you're going to deal with headaches, right? Think about what we have to do from a kitchen choreography element every single day. Our kitchen operates for 24 hours a day because we have to figure out how we're going to source all of this food, how we're going to bring it in, how we're going to maintain it at the right temperature and with the right food handling standards. We're going to engage both graduates of our training program who work for us, but also brand new students, right, in their first weeks of training to help prepare these meals. So we've got to coach them up and make sure those knife cuts are just right. Because if the knife cuts aren't just right, then those green peppers won't be cooked to just the right texture. We've also got to incorporate 19,000 volunteers a year, right? Up to 3 volunteer shifts a day who are even newer to their knife skills than our newest culinary student. And they're part of the process. And we've got to help them understand the impact that they're having and put them to work in really meaningful and purposeful ways. Then we've got to get all of those different meals panned up and plated up and put into the right type of container to go to just the right type of agency. We know whether a homeless shelter has an oven to be able to reheat a meal, or if they don't even have that basic resource, how we get it to them hot so they can turn around and serve it right to their clients when those clients are ready for maybe their only meal of the day. We've got to know how to provide menus in schools that kids actually like and enjoy. We've got a 92% student satisfaction ratings for our meals. We believe that it's because we have these commitments to our people that we're able to execute on quality every single day.
Yeah, you have a lot of happy students and other members, so that's wonderful. It does sound like a huge logistical, financial, and social challenge that you're able to meet. It's a lot. It's a lot to balance, I'm sure.
And the cool thing about that, though, Katie, is it gets to disrupt, again, all these underlying assumptions, right? Because if we can prove that you don't have to choose between a kid eating a meal and making that meal healthy, we can prove that you don't have to choose between getting somebody into your restaurant kitchen who can do the job versus hiring somebody who may have a background. Those can be the same person. And so finding ways to do these things, not just so that they work functionally, but so they can change the way people think about the power of food, opens up a lot more potential conversations in our community about who can work, what role farmers can play in our local food economy, how we can create a healthier community through very, I think, cost-effective means.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you talked about that side because we talk about the DC Central Kitchen side, but then what happens when the meal is delivered? A meal is not complete until it's eaten. What strategies are you using to increase the visibility of healthy foods, of local foods, and educating the consumers about the benefits of supporting local food and agriculture?
I think our Healthy Corners program is really emblematic of that. You know, we launched this initiative in 2011 through what we would say is really intentional community listening, because we had actually just started a few years earlier serving healthy school meals for the first time. We started serving healthy school meals during the Great Recession, and parents started coming to us and saying, I love that you're putting fruits and vegetables on the lunch line every day. But the problem is, my kids are coming home and saying they want these fruits and vegetables, and I can't get those items because I don't have a grocery store in my community. And what we didn't want to do is set up parents for failure. We didn't want to fall into that typical nonprofit trap where we say, do this, don't eat that, but then not actually create the accessible pathways for people to take that advice and act on it. And so we said, well, what can we do to set parents up for success? And the answer in 2011 was to launch our Healthy Corners program, where we started working with small corner stores, none of whom carried fresh, perishable produce items. We believe there is a market for fresh, healthy food. If you don't have it on the shelf, it will never sell. So, how do you know there's no consumer demand? But we also had to build trust with customers who maybe didn't always feel valued walking into a small corner store that was wrapped in bulletproof glass. You know, Katie and your listeners, think about the last time you bought a piece of produce that you didn't touch before you paid for it. right? We go into the grocery store, we go to the farmer's market, and we pick up the melons and the red peppers, and we want to know that it's just right. And imagine negotiating with a clerk behind Bulletproof Glass to say, no, 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 not that pepper. I want that other one, right? Bring me that one. It's such a different type of shopping experience. And so we had to get customers to trust that if they walked into a corner store to buy healthy food, that food would be safe. That food would be presented in an appealing, attractive way, that they would be welcome to sort of, again, peruse that corner store rather than getting in and out as quickly as possible from a safety concern perspective. It took a lot of trust building. Ultimately, what we were able to do is through our consumer engagement efforts, hear from customers that, you know what word they associated most with desirable produce? The produce that they trusted the most, that they thought would be healthiest and best for themselves and their families, that word was local, which is so interesting, right? There are so many other words that we can use to describe food, but they said what I really think is best for me is local food. When you think about what the assumptions that so many people have about low income, particularly urban communities, but true of all lower income communities, about the food that people want and desire and will pay for, and as a result, the choices that are often made about what food is then available and sold and advertised in those same communities, the opportunity to present locally grown food from area farmers and tell the story of this is who the farmer is, right? We would actually put in signage saying, this is the farmer that grew your produce, right? You can't get any more transparent in our food system than that, right? Brought to you by a trusted nonprofit who is training your neighbors who have faced barriers to employment to then bring this healthy food to your store. And then you can buy it for your family and maximize your SNAP benefits. And eventually, through some policy changes that we led, WIC benefits for the first time at corner stores as well. And so today, Healthy Corners, as I said, is at 57 corner stores. We're serving 22,000 customers a year. And through partnerships with the USDA, we're now able to take purchases of SNAP dollars and multiply them when folks are picking fresh fruits and vegetables at corner stores. So we're driving purchasing power at small, locally owned businesses. I'll never forget when one of my colleagues, who was one of our first Healthy Corners delivery drivers, said, I used to sell drugs on this block and now I bring it healthy food. What a powerful transformation that is. And how much better is it for our communities when we offer those types of pathways for people to choose something? It's a win win all the way down.
Well, so it really is about getting the right message, the local farmer's story, and tasty food out there and having the capital to access it.
That's right. It takes all of those things. And so that takes a holistic approach. It takes time. These are not sort of 6-month pilot initiatives that you say, oh, well, we didn't change generations of consumer behavior and urban planning choices overnight. Like, no, of course not. But part of this work is continuing to show up in communities, with communities, for communities. One of the things that we do is we hire a neighborhood resident in every ward of DC where we operate corner stores. And so they serve as a liaison between store owners who are trying to, in many cases, they're working 16 hours a day. These are low margin businesses. They need to cover their bottom line and stay employed and stay open. You also have customers who expect a certain level of service and presentation and merchandising and bounty when they look at a produce display. And so having these trusted sort of third party players who could hear the concerns of a store owner, hear the concerns of a customer, hear what was operationally possible for us or menu items that we should be thinking about, and triangulate between them was transformative for getting people comfortable and feeling welcome at corner stores and store owners to be able to say, this is really what I need this business to look like to make sense for me.
Yeah, we eat with our eyes. Marketing is such a big part of it. What are the other opportunities that you see for food hubs to innovate and expand in our food systems?
We will always come back to this idea of how can we center job creation and employment in everything that we do with food, economic resources and career opportunities. That makes the operation more sustainable. It allows you to think about different funding streams, right? In addition to nutrition and health programming, but also workforce development and apprenticeship opportunities. And I think it changes the way that you can root yourself in the community because then you're not providing just a service.
That's a great point about food as a tool, as the through line for all your various initiatives. It seems like you're doing a lot, but always going back to the mission of using food as the tool to create all these positive opportunities.
Well, we've been asked many times, like, hey, you have this wonderful self-empowerment program. And that's really the beating heart of our culinary job training program is the morning class where for 90 minutes, our students come in, and these are students who have faced immense, staggering barriers in their life. We ask them to open up and be candid about those challenges with one another, to talk about attitudes and behaviors and mindsets that have brought them to enrolling in our training program. We meet them with resources and opportunities and coping mechanisms so that they can take the life skills and resiliency that's brought them to our door and apply it to a more successful hospitality career. We've helped start over 100 other community kitchens across the country by being totally open source. As our organization has navigated a significant amount of external challenges, right? I came here as an intern 19 years ago. Shortly thereafter, we had to battle the Great Recession. We had to battle the COVID-19 pandemic and respond with 8 million emergency meals. And throughout that crisis, as people encouraged us to do more and more from an emergency feeding perspective, and we stepped up time and again, we never once closed for a day, but we said eventually the economy is going to reopen and we are going to need to put people back to work because this crisis is going to most seriously impact the neighborhoods where there are the least resources. And so, as our operation evolved coming out of COVID, we've more than doubled the scale of our culinary job training program. Last year, we trained 181 people with a 91% job placement rate, which is up from 79 graduates just 2 years earlier. And so, the idea that we can use food to continue to stay part of people's conversations, stay relevant to whatever is happening in DC, but always bring that conversation back to economic development.
It's great how food is always behind the headlines, it's always underneath everything we do.
Well, we're excited for the future, right? We are now in our Klein Center for Jobs and Justice. This is a new headquarters that we opened almost exactly 2 years ago. For over 30 years, we were headquartered in one of America's largest homeless shelters. And so now we're in a place that really embodies that $130 million a year of meaningful impact that we generate. This is a 36,000 square foot urban food hub and training center on the Washington riverfront. We're able to dramatically improve our economic impact and job creating opportunity. Over the last 2 years, we have nearly doubled every one of our core programs in terms of our reach, our scale, and our ability to work with local farmers. In the last year, we've spent $2.2 million with local farms at a time when there's lots of market uncertainty. We're keeping that food local, we're keeping it fresh and healthy, and we're building consumer demand in our most historically underserved communities. And so as we look ahead to the future of DC Central Kitchen, we're really interested to find ways to engage with the food as medicine conversation and movement, find ways to make a lasting impact on people's health and well-being. We also want to be thinking about a changing food economy. Where are the food jobs of the future going to be in a time when automation is a big buzzword, when DC's economy is going to be changing, when we'll be thinking about a changed hospitality sector and restaurant community. So we're thinking intentionally about how we can think about food retail training, how we can think about fast casual employment pipelines that'll continue to allow us to connect people in employment. And I would invite anybody listening, if you are ever visiting Washington, D.C., and you'd like to come on an informational tour, we have an incredible knowledge sharing team. And so one of the things that we always commit ourselves to doing is making sure that anybody who wants to come and learn from what we do, how we do it, and bring their own knowledge about how elements of it might work even better in their own communities, please come check us out. You can visit us at dccentralkitchen.org and connect with us, and we would love to see you in Washington, D.C. sometime soon.
Alex Moore from DC Central Kitchen shared how they are not only cooking and distributing food, but also empowering individuals through job training and tackling hunger and food access. They're getting healthy food from local farmers on the shelves at corner stores while employing city residents who face significant barriers to be part of the solution to the community. Let's explore with Caron Gremont from FRESHFARM on another way food hubs can support farmers. We're delighted to be speaking with Caron Gremont, Director of Food Systems, Innovation, and Resiliency at FRESHFARM. Let's dig in and start with the big picture. For those who might not be familiar, can you please tell us a bit about FRESHFARM? What's your mission and what drives your work?
We're a nonprofit organization, and our mission is really to transform the local food system in the Mid Atlantic. A lot of people know us as the folks who run the DuPont Farmers Market, the legendary DuPont Farmers Market, which is really how we started and what we still continue to do. But as an organization, we're actually so much more than that. Maybe I'll just start by talking a little bit about local food systems, because that really is our mission, which means we work to ensure that food is grown, processed, distributed, and eaten within a close geographic radius. And for us, that means 200 miles. And this is important for a lot of reasons. First of all, it keeps our farmland productive. It reduces environmental impact. It supports our farmers, many of whom are living in rural communities, and those dollars go right back into their communities. And also, it ensures everyone in our community in the Mid Atlantic has access to nutritious food, especially relevant in communities that have for too long been facing systemic barriers to health and economic opportunities. So for FRESHFARM, we have four main program areas that help us really support a strong local food system. The first, as I mentioned, like the DuPont Farmers Market, is our farmers market and farm stand programs. We operate 26 of these programs across DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And I want to call out, especially in DC, we operate a farmers market or a farm stand in every single ward of the city. Last year alone, this program generated almost $30 million in revenue for both local farmers and local businesses. Our second primary program area is incentive programs that create more equitable food access. So you may have heard, for example, about double up programs or SNAP incentive programs. The idea here is for families struggling with food insecurity, they get additional incentives to shop at farmers markets so their dollars stretch longer and they too have access to local produce. Our third primary program area, and this is also one that probably a lot of listeners may have heard of, may even have children enrolled in one of our programs, is our food education program called Food Prints. This program has been running for years. It currently runs in 20, more than 20 actually, DCPS elementary schools and charter schools. And the idea here is really simple. We really want to get young kids excited about eating locally grown produce. And the last big program area is what I run, and honestly, what I'm most excited to be here to talk about today, and that's our pop up food hub. The mission of our pop up food hub is twofold. We are here to support small and mid sized farmers in the region, and especially Black and Brown farmers. And we support them by connecting them with wholesale partners. And in this case, our wholesale partners are community based organizations deeply embedded in the community who support families struggling with food security. And we connect these farmers to these organizations and these families and ensure they all have access to fresh, locally grown produce at wholesale prices.
That is so great. It's obvious that your mission extends far, far beyond just selling produce. What do you see as the primary, maybe even unique benefits you provide to the farmers who choose to partner with Fresh Farm?
I think it does vary by program. I'll talk a little bit about our pop up food hub, and maybe I'll even just start by defining what a food hub is. I think when I start, I like to think about really the kind of USDA definition of a food hub. The USDA defines it as a centrally located facility with a business management structure facilitating aggregation, storage, processing, distribution, and marketing of locally grown foods. So we call ourselves a pop up food hub, and it's hard to understand what a pop up food hub is without really understanding what a food hub is. In the USDA definition, it really starts with this idea of a facility, a building and a place, a warehouse. And that's so great for a lot of food hubs, but for us in an urban area, as we know, space is expensive and it's really hard to find a big space in our dense urban city. So, what we've realized is that we can do a food hub, we can do that aggregation and coordinating and marketing and distribution without needing a really big facility. And we do that through our farmers market network. We literally pop up at our farmers markets and turn them into food hubs. The best way I can describe it is probably to just give an example of how this plays out. We operate our pop up food hub at our Tuesday farmers market in city center DC. It is a lovely market at 11 a.m. on Tuesday mornings downtown. So, one of the farmers that comes to that market, his name is Bill Mickley. He owns Mickley's Orchards, best apples ever. He's based in Pennsylvania, wakes up real early, spends 3 hours driving to the market every Tuesday. I was there last week, great market, tons of rain, not a lot of shoppers. So, what that means for Bill is he's loaded up his truck. He might not have a lot of sales at the market that day, but through our pop up food hub, we've already worked with our 100 plus community nonprofits and aggregated their orders. We've communicated that to Bill Mickley. And when he shows up for that farmer's market, already preloaded in his truck is all the orders for our wholesale community partners. So he already has a base of guaranteed sales. And since he's already doing that drive 3 hours away, he's already taking advantage of the space on the truck and the environmental impact and ensuring he's getting sales and we're getting food out into the community. So we're saving money because we don't have a warehouse. The orders are placed ahead of time. So the farmers are really picking for what they know are guaranteed orders. And it helps give them a reason to come into the city. So I think when we think about benefits, for us, it's really important to support small and mid sized farmers. And those farmers are growing beautiful produce, but they don't necessarily always have channels to sell that produce at wholesale, especially new farmers. And 26% of the farmers that we work with are black and brown and have had systemic challenges in getting their access to land and building their farms. We're really reducing the environmental footprint by maximizing their trips into the city. We're guaranteeing a base of income, diversing revenue streams, which, as any small business owner knows, is critical. And these farmers are able to operate within Fresh Farm, which, we're a trusted local institution. We've been around for 20 plus years, and we work very closely with other nonprofits to help create these channels for these farmers. So it really kind of rounds out a lot of their work and just complements the work that they're already doing to bring local produce into farmers markets around the city.
I love that story, and those apples sound absolutely delicious. You offer these resources that farmers might not be able to find elsewhere, the marketing support, the aggregation, and transportation. What other resources do you offer?
So recently we started a program called Fresh Farm to restaurants. And the idea here is to work with our small network of farmers and help connect them to local restaurants that are more interested in purchasing local produce. For local farmers, the way they grow produce doesn't automatically translate into how restaurants want it. So, for example, it's asparagus season. Our local asparagus is really, really beautiful. Our farmers are picking it, but our restaurants may want it a certain size. They want it all to be the same length. So we act as that bridge that can help educate on both sides, communicate to our farmers the expectations and the needs of our local restaurants, while simultaneously educating our local restaurants on local produce, how it's picked, how to keep it fresh, how to use it, since it is different from produce that is picked in California or in Canada before it's ripe, shrink wrapped, and transported across the country. And we can really help on both sides increase that understanding, that education, and that confidence so that supply channel can really pump and keep our local food system strong and resilient.
This network really seems to benefit a farmer who might be trying to scale their operation or reach new markets.
I mean, that exactly is our mission and our hope. Last year in 2024, the pop up food hub did over $1 million in sales. So we really bought 400,000 pounds of beautiful locally grown produce from small and mid sized farmers, especially black and brown farmers in our network, and got it into the hands of food insecure families. That's a huge benefit to small farmers who are just starting out.
To me, one of the most fascinating aspects of an organization like Fresh Farm is its ability to create these deep connections in the community. How do you see your food hub strengthening this relationship between the rural agricultural communities and urban customers?
Our food is really, it's not being grown in the city. There are some amazing, amazing urban farms. We work with some amazing urban farms. We love supporting them, but there just isn't enough land in our urban city to grow food the way we need it. That said, at Fresh Farm, our definition of local is within 200 miles. So that's about 3 to 4 hours of DC. So we can really take advantage throughout the year in what we can grow from Virginia up to Pennsylvania. That said, produce does not only grow on weekends. People traditionally think of farmers markets and, as like a lovely weekend, come and walk around and drink coffee and shop and listen to music. And that is so great. But food grows every day of the week, and our farmers need a way to get that food into the community, into the hands and mouths of consumers every single day. For the Food Hub, we really prioritize working specifically with those farmers who come into the city on weekdays. And we really try and help boost their sales. While we have a lot of farmers markets on weekends, it's really important to support those farmers who are bringing produce into the city every day. And while we know it can be hard for our shoppers to get to markets, on weekdays, that's why we place these wholesale orders with our community partners to support those farmers on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, and keep that local food supply pumping every day of the week and really move it into the hands of community members.
The rural and the urban is so powerful. Beyond the economic benefits, what are the less tangible benefits you've seen from bringing these two worlds together?
Our life has become so removed from the cycles and the seasons. When you start to shop locally and you start to pay attention, you start to become more in rhythm with what is being grown and what our planet is really providing for us at the right times of the year. And it really gives you a deeper appreciation of the world that we're living in. We know if there are no farmers, there is no food. When we talk about shopping at a farmer's market or buying more locally, the deeper you get into it, the deeper your understanding of that becomes.
Totally, yes. You help these urban customers really grasp the journey their food takes from the farm to the market. And we are just part of a larger pattern of the community, the world.
Exactly. And really it starts with our kids. So for us to be able to run this food prints program and get into elementary schools means we're really getting our kiddos when they're young. They're growing food in their school garden. They're working with our educators to learn how to prepare that food. They're tasting it.
Every innovative organization faces hurdles. What are the biggest challenges you've encountered with Fresh Farm?
We know that the need is greater than ever for healthy produce. And we are committed to stretching our resource and dollars, but we can't do it alone. So when we think about challenges, I think this too is a really critical moment for our community, for our funders, and for our partners to really come together and rally behind the importance of access to local food. Every dollar for us keeps our market open, supports our food hubs, supports our farmers, and ensures that we can get fresh, healthy food on the tables of those who need it most.
It's a complex, incredible balancing act. And it
Mhm.
sounds like the work you do with the customer education and creating the market demand, that really does help overcome some challenges.
Yeah, we're hopeful. We believe so much in the work that we're doing, in the importance and the need. And quite honestly, it kind of just makes sense, right? We saw what happened during COVID when our food supply came into question and suddenly it wasn't as easy to get things from far away as we were used to. In those moments, our local farmers were our resources, were our best resources to get food into our community. We have to support them. That's the way we keep our food system resilient and strong. There is no food without our farmers. So, now more than ever, it just makes sense to invest in that and support them and help ensure access for everyone in the community.
Right. We cannot take our food, our farmers for granted. They are so, so important. Have you seen any shifts in these opportunities over time, maybe due to these economic challenges we've talked about or just evolving customer preferences?
I've spent a lot of time in the nonprofit world, really focused on food security and food access around produce. I think that what I have noticed is that there are a lot more community organizations who are deeply committed to ensuring neighbors have access to high quality food, right? It's no longer just any food. It's no longer this idea that if someone is struggling with food insecurity, let's just get them anything. We understand that there are real health and financial implications in that. We see a lot of community organizations coming to us and saying, it's really important to us that our families have produce, fruit, vegetables. That's what they need. That's what they're struggling to get. And that's what they're asking for. And not just that, but they understand that there is a real benefit in buying locally and supporting our local farmers. That keeps that money in the local community, and they know that those dollars being reinvested ensures our entire mid-Atlantic is growing and strong. Sometimes there's a bit of a misconception that local food is just for the wealthy. But the truth is, we're seeing more and more interest and demand from local community organizations who just realize that knowing where our food comes from and supporting our farmers is the best and the right thing to do.
Thank you for bringing that up. It's such an important issue. And if we could circle back to the food security and access, can you talk a little bit about how Fresh Farm promotes sustainable and regenerative agricultural practices and how that contributes to a more resilient food system?
While we don't require specific certifications necessarily for farmers, not all of our farmers are organic for a whole slew of reasons. It is really important to us that our farmers do maintain a specific level of commitment to, growing locally and supporting the earth. And we have many farmers that come to us that want help with GAP certification. GAP stands for Good Agricultural Practices, I believe, and other things. And we are happy in our role as a connector to provide that sort of technical assistance, whether we're providing it or we're referring them to USDA resources or other resources at the local level to ensure they have the tools, the education, and the training that they need to grow their businesses.
I find that local foods inherently have regenerative practices due to their community ties. It just makes sense.
I love that.
For farmers and folks who are out there who might be listening, what essential advice would you give them? What should they know or prepare for in working with a food hub like yours?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is to do it. I think we have a culture here where we kind of default to competition, and I think especially for new farmers just starting out, this is a collaborative model. The idea here is if you're a small farmer just starting out and you're growing a few different items and not in large quantities, sell to us. We can aggregate it with other farmers and make it a bigger order to our wholesale partners. So it's not about you, small farmer, versus your neighbor. It's really let's come together and move all this produce into the community. That's really key. For us, it's just we want to meet you where you are and help you grow to be who you want to be. The one thing I think is really important is, especially for small farmers, diversification is key. And a food hub will help diversify the channels and can help farmers balance unpredictable market swings because we have stable demand from our wholesale partners. So I think that can be key. It's not work with a food hub as your primary only channel. It's let us help you create a diversified channel so you can grow your business. I would encourage all farmers to reach out to Fresh Farm to learn more about what we do, how we can help, and how we can support the great work that they're already trying to do.
This has been such an incredibly insightful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. How might our listeners find out more about you and Fresh Farm Market?
Well, the best thing to do is to go to our website, freshfarm.org, or you can find us on Instagram, freshfarmdc. Come to any of our farmers markets and farm stands every day of the week in every ward of the city in Virginia and Maryland. When you come, talk to your farmers. Get to know them. Get to know what they're growing and why, and just learn more about where your food comes from.
That was a look at Fresh Farm and how they're providing food access and education through their farmers markets as a conduit between farmers and shoppers. We've heard about the innovative approaches of established food hubs. Now we turn to the entrepreneurial spirit of Dreaming Out Loud as they continue to build a grocery store that aims to strengthen the local food system. And what better way than from the ground up as we visit their urban farm? This farm has been producing food, and once the new grocery store is open, it will serve as a central hub to help them scale and streamline their activities in one space.
So my name is Autumn Herbert. I'm the farm manager for Dreaming Out Loud. A little bit about myself. I got introduced to farming when I was about 6. My grandfather had about an acre and a half. He taught me how to grow something from seed, get rid of weeds, like small stuff like that, tend to like chickens that they had. Time passed, about 2018, my cousins acquired land in Upper Marlboro. They farmed about an acre to start, and I was there to help out with that process and also just come back to farming. Our food touches Marionberry Avenue first, and then it gets pushed out, distributed out. We will have a salad bar, we'll have also grocery space, and then we'll have prepared food, so our food will be in there. Majority of our food goes to the market, and working with food hubs, different food hubs. So we partner with FRESHFARM to run our market so that we can be able to accept everything, so WIC, SNAP, Produce Plus, and everything else. Our food goes to like 4 other places. So our farmers market is one avenue. Wholesale, Martha's Table, Bread for the City, they'll be able to purchase food from us in bulk through our wholesale. So Marionberry Avenue will be our new food hub. I think everybody's just like glad we're able to work out of one space, and it also brings us together more because we're spread out a lot, and now we're like able to work closely to each other. We're able to communicate better. We were communicating through phones and stuff like that. Now I'm able to drop off produce to Marionberry Avenue Market because it's so close to our other locations, about 5 minutes away. I'm able to say, hey, this is what we have for next week. Look at my crop plan or availability list with folks in the food hub saying, hey, this is what we have coming up. What can we do? Yeah, and then for the community, they'll have a grocery store in that community where it really, really, really matters. There's no grocery store over there. Those folks may not have vehicles to go to another grocery store, maybe across the city. So having that food hub or grocery store there is like very, very important. We can all come together internally and externally, and that's what it's for. Yeah, so on farm, the main challenges would be water and electricity, I would say. We are the biggest production farm in DC, so people do rely on this produce. So it is challenging. They do rely on the food, but also they don't have a safe place to go. Realistically, where we are, it's not the safest place. So they rely on this farm for like safety outlets, food, and also just to be surrounded by community. So if we're not open because of water, that harms them as well. Redfield now has about over 300 watermelon plants. In it right now, 2 varieties. We have Sugar Baby and Crimson Sweet. We have strawberries. So we tested strawberries last year. The variety is called Jewel. They are very, very good. We enjoyed it. While we were out here farming, we just walk past it and eat, which is very nice. So we went ahead and just planted this whole space with the same variety. Yeah, so we have in Orangefield, we have sweet potatoes. We planted about over 500 slips of sweet potatoes last week. And then we also have carrots here. We're transitioning the field for sweet corn. So over here, we have some leftover carrots from our first succession, and then we're transitioning over to corn. So this bed was planted before the others. So this is what's happening in this field. And then let me take you to our greenhouse. So this is our newly built greenhouse. The team and I built this from ground up, so foundation and everything. And we can walk in now, actually. So this is where we do our growing. Yeah, right now we have some butternut squash that is coming up. We have some lettuce that we grow all year round. It's Salanova. And then we also have another variety. It's a bib. We have 2 bib varieties in the high tunnel. We have 1 high tunnel here, and then at our other side, we grow in 3 high tunnels. So right now we're producing tomatoes, 2 varieties. We have cherry tomato, and we have a heirloom tomato. And then on the sides, we're growing the bib lettuce I was talking about. Yeah, we have a few fruit trees. They've been here for a while. This is the first year they've actually started to produce. So we need to prop it up. But yeah, the pears look very beautiful. This is the farm at Kelly Miller. Our goal is to produce 10,000 pounds this year. It's not too shabby. Coming up soon, we will have a workforce development training program here where we're able to train the next generation of farmers. For a young farmer, this work is very important, no matter what anybody says. And if you want to pursue this, do it. Don't listen to folks saying that there's no money in it. You never know. Just go ahead and do it. Don't start alone, though. Farm for somebody first. Even if you can just buy land, I wouldn't do it. I would farm somewhere first. Farm under somebody is so much easier. And then if you still feel like, hey, I want to do this, start your own. Don't do it alone. There is a demand for this, and it is very, very important work. So.
We've explored the dynamic world of food hubs and their critical role in strengthening local food systems. We've learned how these organizations are working to bridge the gap between farmers and consumers, creating a more resilient and sustainable food network. From DC Central Kitchen, we gain insight into the innovative ways these organizations are addressing not only food distribution, but also pressing issues like unemployment. Their work demonstrates the potential for food hubs to be powerful engines of community and economic development. Our conversation with FRESHFARM highlighted the vital services they provide to farmers and consumers, from market access to logistical support. We heard how they empower producers to thrive in a competitive market while ensuring that more of us have access to locally grown food. We continue to track the story of Dreaming Out Loud's grocery store opening with its urban farm, and we see firsthand how the principles of local food sourcing and collaboration with farmers and other organizations can contribute to greater food access and economic empowerment. The story of food hubs is a story of connection, collaboration, and innovation. They represent a growing movement towards a more localized, sustainable, and equitable food system. As we move forward in this series, we'll continue to examine the financial forces that shape our food choices and the systems that bring food to our tables. We encourage you to follow us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you like to tune in so you don't miss out on our next episode, where we'll be exploring trends and innovations in what we eat, how we're eating it, and who gets paid for that. You can check us out on eatsplace.com. Thank you for joining me, Katie Chang and Eats Place, for Batch and Scale, the Healthy Food Financing Podcast. Funding for this podcast was made possible by the Healthy Food Financing Initiative Partnership, funded through USDA and in partnership with Capital Impact Partners. I would also like to thank the government of the District of Columbia for their support of the Nourish DC program. We encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll be exploring the power of food hubs and strengthening local food systems. You can check us out at eatsplace.com. Until next time, feed your hunger and keep thinking about where your food comes from and the financial journey it takes to get there.